Ladies and gentlemen, can you smell what the Rock is cooking here in Week 2? We're here at Jim Rockwell Stadium in New Lexington. Week 2 of Storied Rivals coverage, and it's the New Lexington Panthers taking on the Philo Electrics. 1-0, the Panthers are 0-1, the Electrics. And we'll dive into this game here in a second. But thanks so much for joining us here live on Facebook, X, and YouTube. Will Ford here with you for Week 2 coverage once again of high school football in Ohio, man. And I'll tell you what, it was a thrilling Week 1. All right, I lost you guys there for a minute. We are back live here on Facebook, X, and YouTube, so I apologize for that. Must have been an internet issue there for a second. But welcome back to Jim Rockwell Stadium. And let me just restart for those of you, I don't know how much we missed, but this is the first time in 5 years that this game has been played between the New Lexington Panthers and the Philo Electrics. Since 2019, due to the MVL realignment that's gone on over the last couple of years, this game hasn't been played. But let's take a look at the last 10 matchups dating back from 2019 and before that, and we'll take a look at those for you to see how this season series, or this series between the two teams is kind of shaped up. But we did not play this game in 2020 due to the COVID-shortened season. This game got canceled. First game since 2019, and New Lex won the last matchup between these two teams 26-8. But if you look at that, 2015 to 2018, Philo had 4 wins in a row. One of those a shutout. New Lex got a win in 2014, and then kind of back and forth through the early 2010s. And so 6-4, Philo in front over the last 10 matchups between these two teams. And again, it's the first time since 2019, so there's a whole new energy surrounding this game because these schools haven't faced off against each other in a long time. Now, this is a crossover game in the MVL. It's big school versus small school. So obviously nothing on the line in terms of standings for these two teams, and it's early on in the season as well. But that's the last 10 matchups on the year. Now, I talked to head coach Coach Bour, who was pretty pleased, to say the least, with his Panthers, with a running clock win in Week 1. His team kind of got hit with the stomach bug. It kind of, schools, when they go back in session, usually you get something like that runs through your school a little bit, and kids get sick and whatnot coming back from summer vacation and everything like that. But his team was able to pull it together, and they were able to be dominant throughout. And so here is head coach Coach Bour with the New Lexington Panthers ahead of Week 2 against these Philo Electrics, and he's coming off a 49-7 win against Fairfield Union. Well, head coach Coach Bour is joining us with the New Lex Panthers ahead of Week 2. And, Coach, you had an awesome Week 1 victory, 49-7 running clock win over Fairfield Union. And you can't really do much better than that in Week 1, so I'm sure you're pretty stoked.
Yeah, very happy. I was actually a little nervous going into it. We had some stomach issues going on throughout the team, so I wasn't sure availability, what we were going to have, or dehydration and stuff with cramps. So, no, we played really well. And one of those things, I don't think that we could have scripted it much better. We had a couple of one-play drives that went for touchdowns that weren't plays really designed to go for touchdowns. So, but everything went well. We got out healthy, and we got some guys, some quality reps there at the end as well to build some depth for later on. But very happy with how we started the year. That first game you talk about so much. You talk about it all summer long, and I think it really sets the table for the rest of your season. So it's always easier to win to be looking at 0-1 and having a hangover into Week 2.
Definitely, yeah. The stomach bug, I feel like it gets every school kind of like the first couple weeks of the school year, man. All those kids get back together after the summer break, and it hits some schools more than others. So I'm glad that you guys got through it.
Yeah, you and me both.
Yeah. Now, what do you think? Obviously, I mean, you're a coach. You're always looking for things to nitpick and things to clean up after any win, regardless of how good or maybe if it was an ugly win or whatever it is. But what do you think needs cleaned up after Week 1?
Oh, there's always things. The scrimmages give you a glimpse of what you need to work on and what you've got as a team. But until you really get into week 1, week 2, and you get live and you're going through all your special teams live, it's really a challenge to kind of get a grasp of, are we where we need to be, or do we need to continue to work? Special teams is always going to be one I feel like we need to improve. I feel like those are, people like to talk about it being a third of the game. It's a touchdown or it's not each play. So I think that continue to focus on those and get the full speed reps is going to be important. But offensively we played well. Isaiah completed 76% of his passes. Several went for big plays. So offensively, just looking for consistency and being able to maintain drives. Those 1 and 2 play touchdown drives are not things that are going to happen versus good teams like West and Tri-Valley and Sheridan and some of the teams that we have down the road. But so looking to get more consistent on offense. The running game, I didn't feel like it really took off on Friday. So those are some things we're working on there. Defensively, I thought we played pretty well. Some things here or there, a couple of misalignments. But I thought we tackled very well. Yeah, it's always a concern early too, is how much with the recommendations and limitations put on how much tackling you can get now. Making sure that, hey, when we go full speed against somebody that's really, really good, can we tackle them? So that was one that I was actually pleased with. Usually I'm a little displeased, I guess. So, but overall, not bad. Not bad. There's, like you said, you can nitpick all day. A lot of times on film, it doesn't look as bad until you lose. It's one of those things. So, when you win, there are things that are bad don't look as bad. But that's what we've really been preaching this week, is that, like I said, we've got too many good teams on our schedule to really think that 49-7 and running clock is going to happen every week. And so we can't be content with, man, we play so good that we're the best team of all time. And we need to work on mastery. We need to work on continuing to sharpen our sword and prepare for what's still to come down the road, because it's not going to be that every week.
Yeah, you mentioned Isaiah, and he completed 76% of his throws, 273 yards, 4 touchdowns. 3 of them went to Bentley Hansen, who had a $175 on the day. I mean, it seems like that connection is going already. I mean, it's early season, week 1, but I'm sure that connection, is that connection kind of the focal point of your offense? Like those two, just Isaiah to Bentley in the pass game.
No, not really. I don't ever feel like we have just a guy that we're going to focus on. I think we've got Tyson Spicers is really good. Owen O'Brien's really good. Talent. Swindman last year had 35 catches and 7 touchdowns. So we have a lot of guys I feel like can make plays. We more or less, when we're watching the film, we want to see what do we feel like we can get based on the coverage scheme that we're getting. Matchups obviously going to play into that, but we don't go into it saying we got to force feed Bentley underwear Olympics and it's not real football. But I think that time and that rhythm and the connection and the relationship that you have and the trust that you're building through that is allowing us to, and I think shining there in week 1 with, without all those reps, I don't know if you're necessarily having some of that same success. So there's my selfish plug that 7-on-7 does bring some value to the table.
No, that's fair. I've never heard it called the Underwear Olympics, though. That's a new one.
Sometimes.
That's fair. So now week 2 is Philo, and they're just a physical football team, and their game is running the football. And I just talked to Coach Linam earlier today, and he said, if we can win a game by just running the football, like they're going to do it. I think he pulled that from Woody Hayes. Like, if you don't have to throw it, don't throw it. Just run the football, and that's their game. And Talon Preston, he was their lead ball carrier last week, 112 yards. Talon Bailey gets a lot of touches. Of course, their quarterback, runs with it too. So they're a very run centric offense. But what are you excited about with that matchup coming up tomorrow night?
A lot of things, man. We haven't played those guys since my first year here. Once the league split small, we haven't played since 2019. I have a ton of respect for Coach Linam. I think he does things the right way. I think he's a builder of men, and just a great role model for a younger coach like me. Not that he's old, but he's pretty old comparatively. So, guy that I look up to and respect the work and job. But they're a school that. They're similar to us. We have the same type of kids where they want to run the ball, they want to control the clock, they want to shorten the game, cut down the number of possessions, whereas we want to speed possessions up, extend the game, and create more opportunities. So I think that's usually how I feel like we're in a good place. If we can get to a position where we're up a touchdown, 2 touchdowns, and we can now make them get out of their comfort zone of, hey, let's just turn around and hand it off. I think that's a good position for us to be in. So, but first and foremost, we've got to win the line of scrimmage to be able to compete. If we can win the line of scrimmage, which I felt like we did last week, the skill always looks good behind it. But if you don't have a good line of scrimmage on either side, nothing else tends to look very good.
Yeah, fair enough. No, we're excited to watch it, man. First time in 5 years. It's going to be a good game tomorrow night. But I appreciate you taking 10 minutes out of your busy day to hop on a podcast and promote New Lex. And we're excited for this Week 2 matchup, man. They lost 28-14 to Athens in Week 1. It's a team that they've beat in Week 1 the last couple of years. And it was a tie game going into the fourth quarter. And the Electrics just couldn't quite pull it out. They didn't turn the ball over. They just missed on a couple key fourth downs. They ran the football really the entire game. They only threw the ball 8 times, and they actually didn't complete any of them. It was what you do. And so here's head coach Dirk Lincecum talking about it on Stadium Drive. Head coach Dirk Lincecum with the Philo Electrics going into Week 2. And, Coach, I appreciate you hopping on a podcast to talk some football, man. And it's pretty crazy that, we're already through Week 1. But Week 1, you lost 28-14 to Athens. Tied going into the fourth quarter. It was a close game. Just didn't quite pull it out. But what did you like? What did you not like from that game? And overall, how did you evaluate Week 1 for your Electrics?
Yeah, it's good to be with you guys. Well, I appreciate you having me. Looking back at the Athens game, there were definitely some takeaways. There's takeaways from every game, but I like the way that we executed our run game. I thought offensively our guys played pretty well up front. Thought that we took care of the football. We didn't turn the ball over any. Played well on special teams. Just couldn't quite find the juice on a couple fourth downs. That would have been huge conversions for us to keep drives alive and keep the ball away from Athens. And I give them a ton of credit. Coach White, Nathan White, he's been down there for a few years, and this is a group that he really has invested a lot in. And congratulations to them. They played hard. They were tougher than we were, and so congratulations to him. I felt like our kids, we ran out of gas a little bit. We're playing a lot of guys both ways. Felt like our fourth quarter legs were a lot different than our second quarter legs. And I thought that ultimately came back to bite us a little bit in the end when we needed to get some key stops. It wasn't that my guys weren't working as hard as they could. I've watched the film. I totally believe that they were, and they weren't missing assignments. It was just a fatigue factor. And so what that tells me is we need more guys to be able to step up and get a better rotation of bodies in to keep legs a little fresher. And so when we get back to those key moments, we can still compete and still be close to 100%.
Absolutely, yeah. Now, I know your teams over the years, you've relied heavily on the running game in your offense, and you only had 8 pass attempts against Athens on Friday last week. Is that just kind of game flow or is it matchups? Or, I know you typically rely on the run, but only throwing the ball 8 times in the game, was that just kind of how the game went for you, and you just felt like running the football was the best way to get it done?
Yeah, it was a combination of those things, yeah. Part of it was that, our running game, we were moving the chains, eating up clock, and just really efficient. And then the other part, of those 8 passes, 5 or 6 of those were thrown within the last 8 plays of the game. So it's really even more lopsided than that if you want to take it apart with the details. Woody Hayes used to say, if you don't ever throw it unless you have to. And we really didn't have to. We scored on our first 2 possessions, and then we only punted twice Friday night. And so we really liked the way that our run game looked. Talon Preston and Talon Bailey both did an incredible job mixing it up. And I think Talon Preston had about 25 or 26 carries. And then, he was over 100 yards. So I was really pleased with that. And I like the way that our guys played up front. Because this is a new offense for them. This is not something that we relied on heavily last year. But I think that sets up your play action. It sets up your sprint out passing game from under center and some of your bootlegs and things. So, yeah, we love to run the football anytime we can, and until a team forces us to do something else, the safest way to get to the end zone is just hand it to somebody. So it wasn't really planned out that way. We like to get the ball, to our receivers a little bit more early, and as we move down the road here, we recognize that we didn't put the ball in the air much, and when we did, some of them weren't close. Some of them were dropped. Some of them, the timing was off a little bit. So we got a ways to go to tighten up our passing game. Thought protection was pretty good, but yeah, I mean, if we can get out of the stadium with a win and not throw a single pass, we're going to.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the team you're going up against next, they like to throw the ball a lot. That was pretty evident in their Week 1 win. New Lex won, 49-7, and Isaiah Stevens, he had 273 yards passing, 4 touchdowns. 3 of those went to Bentley Hansen, so it seems like they've got a nice 1-2 connection in their passing game. But when you look at the film from that game last week as you get ready for Week 2 here tomorrow, I mean, what is it going to take to stop Stevens, Hansen, and just that New Lex offense that just seems like they're really good at moving the football through the air?
Well, first off, I don't know if you can stop them completely. I think you kind of have to pick your poison and decide what you're going to try to take away and sort of force them to try to play left-handed a little bit. No pun intended, because the Stevens kid is a left-handed quarterback. But he's a tremendous player, and he's going to carve people up a lot this year, and hopefully we're a well-disciplined secondary. Hopefully we can generate a good pass rush, make him a little uncomfortable, and run with those guys on the back end. The Hansen kid, a tremendous athlete, he's a good basketball player, good baseball player, just all-around athlete. Those guys are seniors, so they've worked hard. They put a lot of time in. Coach Bour does a really good job. He's a good offensive mind. So they're going to be a tough out for anybody. And I think what we have to focus on primarily is just, forcing them to make plays instead of, just allowing them to, just kind of have some big plays and just some easy throw and catch type situations. Make them earn it, obviously. Get after the football any chance we get. And, I mean, a lot of it just comes back to fundamentals of tackling and, making sure your assignments lining up correctly. I feel like if we do that, or they're going to be, they're going to have some plays. They're unlike any other team on our schedule. They're unique in what they do offensively with so many different concepts. They're really hard to scout because they are so diverse offensively with their passing game. But again, I like my guys. I really, really have a lot of faith in the kids that I have on my team, and I think they're going to play really hard, and I think they're going to give it their best. So going in with that mindset, we can definitely compete, and we take care of the football and force them to drive the football and not give up big plays. I like our chances. So I got a lot of faith in my guys.
Is there a different energy when it comes to, because you were playing non-conference in Week 1 and now you're in the MVL, and regardless of if it's a crossover game or if it's in your division or whatnot, do these games kind of carry a different energy once you kind of start playing other teams in the MVL?
The kids might say that it does, just because they probably know some of these kids better just because of proximity. They play other sports against these guys and probably more familiar with some of them. But, I would say from my standpoint as a coach, our preparation process doesn't change a lot week to week. We do focus on different things within the content that we have. But as far as the process itself, no. We wanted to beat Athens. We didn't get it done. We're gonna show up this week. We're gonna go after New Lex and play hard and play together. But I would say the fact that they're in NVL school, we haven't played New Lex since I think 2019 when the NVL realigned. So this is going to be the first time that we've squared off with them in 5 years. So it is almost like a non-league contest for us. But yeah, I would say, it's Week 2 and you can only play the Week 2 game.
Right.
So, that's just what we're focused on regardless of who the opponent is.
No, yeah, that's a good point. But we're really looking forward to watching this game, Coach, on Friday. We're going to be there doing our pregame show to hype it up. And I appreciate you hopping on a call here for, 10 minutes or so to talk Week 2. And hopefully you guys get in a win column and get to 1-1 on the year.
Thank you. It's my pleasure, and appreciate what you guys do for area football. And the highlights are spectacular, and keep doing what you're doing. We really appreciate it.
Always enjoy talking to Coach Linam of the Electrics and their game, the ground and pound. Talon Bailey's their lead guy. He had 27 carries last week, 112 yards, a touchdown in their 28-14 loss to Athens. But they won the toss just a few moments ago. They did the coin toss at midfield. They won the toss, and they're going to defer to the second half. So New Lex will start with the football. If you're following our social media coverage later on tonight. So New Lex will start with the football. But let's take a look at some other games going on in the area. And we'll start in East and Northeastern Ohio for Week 2. We've got Akron East at Bedford, Marengo Highland at Dalton, Waynedale at Garraway. Ridgewood's going to host Riverview. Tallmadge hosting Akron Ellett. The Union Local Jets, they are hosting Buckeye Local. John Glenn going to take a trip across town to Cambridge in that local rivalry. Maysville and Lakewood both 0-1 doing battle tonight in Southtown. Indian Valley will take a trip to Meadowbrook. Philo and New Lex, of course, here tonight, the game we're at. Watkins Memorial going to take on Sheridan at Sheridan. Tri-Valley at Licking Heights, West End going to Licking Valley, and Zanesville hosting St. Clairsville this evening. And then we'll take a look at Central and Western Ohio for Week 2. Centerville hosting St. Xavier. Dublin Kaufman, the Shamrocks, are going to Miamisburg. Scioto hosting Bishop Watterson. Gahanna, nice win in Week 1, taking on Groveport Madison at home. Grandview Heights at Columbus West. Granville and the Blue Aces hosting Clear Fork. Hamilton Township, the Rangers are at St. Charles. Alder at Columbus Academy. Ridgedale at Marion Elgin. New Albany going to host Wadsworth. Olentangy is hosting Medina. Olentangy Liberty hosting Glenville. Olentangy Orange, the Pioneers, are going to go to Westerville North. Olentangy Berlin at Upper Arlington, taking on Justin Buttermore and the Golden Bears. And Westerville Central at Westerville South. And excuse me, I missed the game on the left side at the bottom of your screen. Canal, Winchester, Hilliard, Davidson. The teams highlighted in blue are the teams that we're filming throughout the season. And we're going to have the national anthem here in a few moments, so I may step aside here briefly, depending on the timing of everything. But this game, 5 years since it's been played between the New Lexington Panthers and the Philo Electrics. And I'll wrap things up here on this show. Thanks so much for joining us on Stadium Drive for Week 2. We're going to have the national anthem here in a few minutes at Jim Rockwell Stadium. Stay tuned for our coverage throughout the evening on X. I'll be posting highlights throughout the game with score updates as well. But first time in 5 years here at Jim Rockwell Stadium, the Electrics and the Panthers go to battle. 1-1, New Lex is 0-1, Philo is. Something's got to give, and we'll see what happens in this MVL crossover game here tonight. But thanks so much for joining us. Will Ford signing up for now with Storied Rivals.